We open this episode seeing Oz and Victor stare at his totaled Maserati. Oz lights a match and sets it on fire. Victor apologizes for wrecking his car. Oz tells him, "You came back for me, Vic. You put your life on the line for me. That's worth 1,000 Maseratis." Two of Oz's goons arrive. He greets them and reveals he was going to cut them in on a new drug, but the Maronis robbed him before he could approach them. He tells them the Maronis have a blind spot waiting to be exploited, and reveals their son Taj Maroney is an idiot TikToker who's a stupid motherfucker begging to be gotten. I can't believe the Penguin has a TikTok account. Next, we see Oz and his crew kidnap Taj Maroney while he's getting a tattoo. It's really strange he would be so open with his location knowing the line of work his family is in. The Penguin visits the Maronis in Blackgate prison again and hands him a picture of their kidnapped son. Calm but clearly furious, Salvatore Maroni simply asks Oz, "What do you want?" Oswald responds, "I want what's mine, what your wife stole from me. I want my fucking shrooms." Nadia interrupts and tells Oz, "Our son is not a pawn. There's a code." The Penguin quickly responds, "Is that right? Did I take the wrong Maroni? Is that it?" Salvatore quickly stands up and yells, "You do not threaten my family." The Penguin responds, "Jesus, Sal, put your dick away. Don't forget who I got at home." Oswald suggests they meet for a quick exchange. The Maronis agree to his terms. We cut to Sophia walking out of the Falcone mansion as she watches the FBI investigate the premises and EMTs collect all the dead bodies of those horrible Falcones. The chief of police pays her a visit. They have an exchange of words and she calls out his ill intentions for being present at the crime scene. He tells her that all bodies have been identified except Johnny Vitti. He asks if she knows his whereabouts and Sophia tells him no. Next, we see her traveling towards the family crypt with a bucket. She walks down and it's revealed she's holding Johnny Vitti hostage. As she walks towards him, she says, "The cops are looking for you, Johnny, although I get the sense they would rather find you dead than alive." She towers over him and tells him he doesn't look good. She expresses she needs untraceable cash and she knows her father would have kept it somewhere. He refuses to tell her where the cash is located. She tells him if he needs more time, then so be it. However, it gets cold in the crypt and his body will need to do a lot of work to keep his organs alive. She picks up the bucket and throws ice water on him. Sophia is basically torturing Johnny until he tells her all the useful information she needs. Johnny is a horrible person and this is exactly what he deserves. Now we see Oswald and his crew holding Taj Maroney at Eve Carlo's place. She expresses her disapproval of this to Oz and asks if he and his men can leave as soon as possible. The Penguin walks into her living room and tells his men to turn off the news. He verbalizes his feelings and says, "The Falcones are all dead. As far as I'm concerned, Sophia did us a favor." He instructs his men to get ready to transport Taj Maroney to Nadia's location and asks Victor if he can go and check on his mother. Victor agrees. We cut to Sophia lying on a table, looking up at the ceiling of her family's crypt. She takes a puff of her cigarette, exhales, and says, "How you doing, Johnny?" She looks over at him with a sinister smile on her face, while Johnny Vitti is on the ground shivering and nearly freezes to death. She continues, "Are you ready to head back to the house? Maybe even warm yourself by a nice fire, light an expensive cigar, or do you want to die down here in the dark with all the greats?" She then props herself up, takes another puff of her cigarette and says, "I can't guarantee you'll get one of these gold nameplates, but I'm sure we can find a very nice unmarked hole somewhere." Sophia is hilarious. Johnny finally cracks and tells Sophia he'll help her find a crew and that she needs more than money, she also needs respect. In the next scene, we see Victor checking in on Oz's mother. He finds her in her room, looking through a box of memorabilia. She looks up and believes he's one of her children. Victor snaps her out of it by telling her who he is. Oswald's mother's dementia is clearly getting worse. Next, we see a random prison guard attempt to assassinate Salvatore Maroni. I guess the Penguin put this hit out. The Penguin meets up with Nadia Maroni at the agreed location. He gets out of his van and says, "Nadia, Nadia, Nadia. It's always a pleasure." Nadia looks at him and simply responds, "My son, now." "Straight to business, huh? I respect that," Oz responds. He instructs his goons to get Taj Maroney from the back of the van. He emerges with the tied up, blindfolded, and soaked Taj with his gun pointed at his back. "What have you done to him?" Nadia asks. "He's fine. Picture help," Oz responds. "Remove the tape from his mouth. I want to hear it from him." I'm doing you a solid. Your son's a talker. You want this over quick? Just let me see the shrooms. We'll be on our way. Nadia instructs her goon to reveal the shrooms to the penguin. Oswald tells his goon to walk over and check the product. His goon confirms it's all there. Nadia, my friend Bruno is going to get into that truck, the penguin explains. That truck stays put until my son is released, Nadia quickly responds. Relax, Nadia, I know. He then tells Tosh Maroney, go to mama. Tosh begins to walk over to his mother, soaking wet. Nadia embraces her son. While this is happening, the garage door to the location begins to close, and suddenly more of Maroney's goons appear and begin to shoot at Oz and his crew. I knew Nadia has something up her sleeve. It's clear she doesn't trust Oswald at all. Now we're in a shootout. The Penguin's men manage to defeat the Maroney's goons. However, Oz goes the extra mile by lighting his lighter and throwing it on the trail of gasoline Tosh made when he walked over to his mother. Nadia notices when it was too late and Oswald stared gleefully as he watched the two Maroneys burn to death. Oh man, Oz truly is a villain. This was such a cool scene, but I can't believe Nadia couldn't smell the gasoline on her son, unless the penguin used some other chemical that doesn't give off a smell. Salvatore is going to be gunning for Oz. I hope our guy understands there's no turning back now. He's broken out of his trance by the fire alarm and sprinklers activating in the facility. He runs towards his vehicle and says, oh shit, the shrooms! Get in the truck! Go, go! And quickly gets into his van. He and his goons bust through the garage door and flee from the scene. They make it to their location and Oz notices the shrooms have been ruined, except for a few that were in 2 buckets. Furious, he instructs his men to take the shrooms that could be salvaged and to keep them warm. He calls Victor and asks how's his mother doing. Victor explains she's fine. Oz tells Victor he needs to get out of there. Victor asks Oz where he wants him to take her. Oswald frustratingly yells, I don't know. Victor explains he knows a place and will take care of it. The penguin receives a call from Salvatore Maroney. He tells Oswald that his assassination attempt failed and he's coming after him and that he's cooked. The penguin responds, cooked? That's funny. Do me a favor, Sal. Call your wife and see if she answers. Damn, Oz. What a way to twist the knife in the womb. Salvatore doesn't know his wife and his son were murdered. Oswald ends the conversation by saying, you stole from the wrong fucking guy, and ends the call. Next we see Sophia getting dressed. Dr. Julius walks in and she asks, what are you doing here? We're past analysis at this point, don't you think? Dr. Julius explains he's proud of Sophia and wants to be a part of what she's doing. This guy's not well. It really makes the audience see what type of people are employed at Arkham Asylum. Now we see Sophia entering the boardroom, rocking her mother's fur. Johnny VD tells her new goons to quiet the fuck down. The lady has something to say. Sophia walks to the head of the table, totally giving boss vibes, and I love this scene because it visually represents the full transition from Mafia Princess to Boss Lady for Sophia. She reaches her destination and says, thank you, Johnny. She addresses her new employees by saying, first, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. I guess the family. Oh, Jesus Christ, Johnny says under his breath. I love this moment because it seems like the air was immediately sucked out of the room and stripped any leverage Johnny VD thought he had over her. She owned up to what she did, so now it can't be hung over her head by anyone. Her family was awful to her, so it's evident she doesn't care what anyone thinks about her actions. She continues by reiterating, I killed them all. And I'm so glad they're dead. My family disposed of my mother like she was nothing. Then they did the same to me. And honestly, none of you are any different. None of you are made men, except for Johnny here. She walks over and kisses the top of his head. She continues her speech about how all the men have been used as pawns, overlooked, and were expendable to her father. She also mentioned her mother's name was Isabella Gigante and how few spoke of her name after her death, because she was a force greater than the Falcones could handle. She continues to command the room and says, as of today, my father's legacy is dead and will never speak his name again. From this point on, I am a Gigante, and this is a new family now. Johnny gently interrupts by asking, what are you doing? She holds up her hand, clearly communicating for him to not interrupt her at the moment. She passionately continues, a family that will not treat you like cannon fodder in a fruitless war with the Maroneys, a war which I intend to end. Dumbass Johnny interrupts again and says, alright, okay, Sophia, let's not be rash here. These gentlemen know we got a score we need to settle. Before Johnny could utter another syllable, Sophia blows his brains out. The men are genuinely shocked. She grabs a duffel bag full of money and flashes the cash to the men while saying, This was my father's, but he made it all for your labor. You did the dirty work, and they kept it all for themselves. If you join me, you will have a new family, and I will pay you what you're worth. More money than you've ever seen before. She pours the money onto the table and stares at the men in silence. One goon hesitantly reaches for a stack of cash and says, Miss Gigante. She smiles and gives him a nod of approval for him to grab a stack of cash. She then glances around the room at the other men and simply says, Go ahead. The rest of the goons begin to grab a stack of cash as she smiles because she successfully gained the loyalty of her new crew. Baby, let me tell you something. Miss Sophia Gigante is everything. I know the show is titled Penguin, but I'm rooting for the reign of Miss Gigante. We cut to seeing Victor escorting Oswald's mother into a building in his ravaged neighborhood, Crown Point. A former associate of his notices Victor heading into the building. Victor and Oz's mother settle into the apartment. Oswald gives him a call, and Victor informs him of where they're located. Oz tells them to stay put, and he'll meet them there soon. I predict Victor's associate, Squid, is gonna cause him some problems. Oz meets with Eve Carlo at her place and tells her Victor has somewhere they can hide for a bit in Crown Point. Eve tells him she's not going with him. The Penguin gets upset and begins to throw all he's done for her back in her face, as if she hasn't done anything for him in return. Oswald is unbelievable for this. Eve de-escalates the situation by telling him she will just slow him down and that he'll be fine. Next, we see Sophia make her way to Salvatore Maroni to propose an alliance between the Maronis and the Gigantes. I understand they both have a mutual enemy at this time, but I'm not sure if I fully trust Salvatore Maroni. The Penguin arrives at the apartment. He hugs his mother and she asks him what kind of man can't take care of his own mother. He informs her his living situation will be temporary. She pushes him off her. He gets up and begins to look through the box of memorabilia his mother brought with her. He finds an old subway token and seemingly gets an idea in his head. He instructs Victor to come with him. Next, we see Victor and Oz break into a door and begin to travel through an underground tunnel, while Oswald gives him the history he and his brothers have with this tunnel. They appear to reach a center point of the tunnel. The Penguin turns on a power generator to power up the lights in the area. He tells Victor it's going to take some work to get in shape. While Victor is exploring the room, Oz gets his attention by saying, Hey kid, you feel that? It's humid down here. Doc, you know what thrives in a place like this? Victor smiles and responds, Mushrooms. Bingo! Welcome to our new base of operations, Oz responds. He looks around and murmurs to himself, This fucking place, calling me home. He looks at Victor and smiles. Suddenly the power goes out and the episode fades to black. This was another great episode. Oz made some major moves by taking out a portion of the Maronis and getting his shrooms back. Sophia Gigante is here in all her glory and has stepped up as the boss lady by eliminating the past, i.e. her basically executing Johnny Vitti in the board meeting, and forging a new future by paying her men what they're worth and forming an alliance with the last living Maroni, which is something the Penguin must deal with soon. There were a lot of things that went down that moved the story forward. Once again, the writing was pretty solid in this episode. The actors are really giving it their all, and this episode is visually consistent with the others. I'm rating this episode a solid B. If you like this review, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.